Welcome to another episode. I'm talking with someone I connected over on Podmatch. Thanks for the connection today, and we'll get right into the guest introduction here in a second. But I love to talk about tech, film, and everything like that on the podcast. What we're doing using technology, and me introduce just our guest. Right, should have done this before we started press and record, but like I said, we're doing it live on the show. Bring Melih. Did I get
Yep,
that
you
right?
got it.
Bring you into
Yeah.
the show here. Welcome on board. How are you doing today on this Wednesday
Great, great to be
afternoon?
on your show, Tommy. It's not a problem. The beauty of where we are today with technology, you can slice and dice the recording afterwards and do whatever you need to do. But yeah, it's never a dull day with technology. I've been at it for over 40 years.
And how fast it evolves, changes each day. That is getting faster even with that.
I agree.
And
We're
I
no longer talking about years. We're talking about weeks, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, that's what during 2025, especially in the last half, we're talking about technology changes that are happening in weeks. It's not about technology changes happening in months, or for that matter, if I go back several, like 20 years ago, right, or 30 years ago, technology changes you can count on it being an annual thing. We're no longer annual. It's kind of crazy, crazy times that we're living in.
and going back to like 15 years, like I feel like I'm currently in job search myself, like with my whole doing this thing as well, getting doing best of both worlds. And the what I was previously doing, where I started at back right out of college too, like we got into like websites, and that's when like from that point on, I just want to like tell this like story real quick that like it was
Oh,
uploading video, and if you could find the, there's a reason I know like if you knew our workflow and everything, there's a reason why, but if you were to find like the most tedious, most roundabout way to upload a video, and there's a way, there's a reason why we did it, or to set the workflow that we did. We found that way of uploading video, and today you upload a video, but we uploaded a ton of video like that, and it was a roundabout workflow. And since then, technology, like we like opened up the episode, has grown, but like, and it's getting faster and faster and faster and faster, and it
yep.
just no holding up. So I want
Um,
to just like introduce, get your introduction for you. Like, who are you? What do you do?
sure. Real quickly, my name is Melih Oztalay. I am the CEO of SmartFinds Marketing. We are a marketing agency based out of the Detroit metro area. The company has been in business for 38 years. We're going on 39 next year. Um, it's been a long ride. I started the internet group in 94, and I've seen all the changes that have taken place ever since. It takes a while to get used to all of this and see what's going on. And ultimately, it's about adapting to these changes, right? But before I get into that, we have a team of 25. We've got creative, marketing, tech, writers. Everybody's in the Detroit metro area. Everybody's in the Southeast Michigan area. And as a B2B marketing agency, there's very little that we don't do, especially nowadays.
Changes. You mentioned changes. You mentioned all the like technology changing, adapting. What is it that's one? Well, one, you can answer one or the other. Like, what are you excited about when it comes to adapting with technology?
For me personally, I can tell you this: I'm an early adopter, right? Meaning that if any of the viewership have read the book "Crossing the Chasm," which was written right after the IBM came out with the PC back in the early '80s, but that book has been updated since a few times, but the concept still remains the same. In other words, um, early adopters see something new and they gravitate to it and they're trying to figure out, is it viable? And what does that mean? That means that I'm willing to make a mistake. And that's where we run into, an issue between early adopters versus late adopters versus the rest of the population that really hits the bell curve in the middle, right? So for me personally, new stuff is always great. I always want to play around with it, test it out, see how it works. In our case, as a marketing agency, I want to know whether or not it has benefit to our clients. Um, and to that extent, I these types of changes are great. At the end of the day, technology is about moving forward. Technology is never about status quo. It'll never plateau. And technology is certainly not about going backwards. And so we have to be able to take technology and figure out how do we push it forward. And as we push it forward, that's the part that's hard for some people, is it requires change. And that change could be as simple as, for your business or your home or whatever. But that change could also be more complicated, meaning that it's affecting society. And so the issue that we're running into, and especially in the last 30 some odd years, is the fact that these changes are occurring and the fact that individuals and businesses need to figure out how do they embrace these changes. This idea of pushing back just doesn't work, unfortunately. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I well, off top of my head, I tend to like change versus I'm the one to go to towards change versus like other family members or friends or and I know
Yeah.
there's change is a good thing, and I heard you talking about the mistakes and like the how viable it is and come across a mistake and everything, and I had a follow up question to that, and
Sure.
that what mistake that you made, like like technology that you made that you thought, oh no, this is really bad, but it ended up like it went not, not when I say bad, it went down like the direction that you really didn't expect, but it ended up taking off and really went into like a very positive direction.
Yeah. So I'll give you a good story, and you're gonna love this one. So I remember in 2007-ish, give or take, there, right? The iPhone came out to the market in '07. I remember that. And then, but right around the same time, we had Facebook, MySpace, and we had Twitter, all launching within that same time frame, give or take. I'm sure people are detailed oriented. Will get into the details about it, but roughly speaking. Now, I remember Twitter and I tested it out. And my concern with Twitter was that it required ongoing and nonstop commenting communications. It was like just a feed that kept going. And the what we saw is Twitter in terms of a GUI interface, what was really the basis of a what we used to call IRS, or Internet Relay Chat. I said S, I meant C, IRC. Internet Relay Chat was a very difficult platform to work in. Okay. Twitter took IRC and turned it into a GUI interface that was more manageable and easier to work with. But it didn't change the fact that you are constantly having to work inside of it. So I looked at it and I honestly, I said the labor time involved in this is significant. And we didn't have any tools like chat GPTs and the AIs of the world that we have today. And so if you think about my perspective on Twitter, on whether it was practical and the fact that it was labor intensive compared to the fact that of how popular it got, I can, there's an interesting scenario where I came up with a different analysis of what to do with this thing versus what actually happened with Twitter, right? And if you ask me, would I change my mind? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. Um, I look at it from a business standpoint. I look at it from a standpoint of how do I benefit my clients? And Twitter, relative to that, required way too much labor time compared to what our clients' budgets are and whether or not we could find more effective tools to get the same job done. So, be that as it may, I know how popular Twitter got, and a lot of people flocked to it. But I do think that it was more at the personal level versus, let's say, at the company level.
So one thing I've always noticed about Twitter X, if you want to call it, versus like the others, like it was I was using that was the one that I was probably most successful with when if I contacted like a company on, and you say it's more personal too, and I think
Mhm.
I find that kind of interesting, that it can be more personal, but you have to find a company that's on there, and I had success. Instagram these days lately is getting a little better, and it's gotten a lot more better with
Right.
being able to be contacted and contacting through there instead of how we used to do it on the rotary dial
Right.
phones and everything. And in everything, I've seen a progression from that to these apps, whether it's calling
Hmm.
apps, social media apps, and
Yep.
so like
I agree.
was like so it was a mistake that you thought did it, maybe I missed it, but a mistake
Well,
that
what I'm saying is my mistake was
hmm
the industry went in one direction, right? Meaning that Twitter got more popular. Whereas my personal perspective was that I don't want to engage in this. Okay, so here's a technology that I said, okay,
okay.
I'm all in, I'm gonna try it. But then I came out of it and saying, well, I'm not sure that this is the right tool for our clients. I don't know if this is the right way to spend our labor time. And that's where the mistake was. And I'm not saying it's a mistake necessarily, but let's just say that we agree to disagree, right? My perspective on Twitter was one thing, the industry had a different perspective and it took off, which was good, but it took off because people individually were willing to spend their time chatting and commenting and getting engaged, which is different from using it as a marketing tool for B2B businesses. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, and now I got it more clear as like a realization. Like you got on there and you realized, if I'm what I'm hearing you say now,
Mhm.
you realized not aligned, not with my with the bandwidth workflow that I have, that's available for you. It's not aligned with that, with the amount of bandwidth you have and everything in
Correct.
company and whatever. So it's not. It's a realization alignment kind of thing. Okay, I got it
Yeah,
now.
and I think, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that when I look at technology, I have to look at it in the eyes of, can I use this to make money for my client? Can I generate leads? Can I
Hmm.
generate sales? How and what's the balance in all of this, right? And so I'm all in on social media. I just wasn't all in on Twitter. That's my issue, if that makes sense now.
So Twitter wasn't your thing, as we figured out. You figured out it's not your thing when you're
Right.
going out for those clients, looking out for the add value to the clients. Let's get into how we do that. Using what tools are there? I know we want to get into the AI and using
Yeah.
AI tools as a productivity. Right? Maybe we can get right into that. What tools do you find that help your clients or help you reach your clients?
Yeah. So, if I let, first of all, like I said, I was in on social media, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, um, TikTok, Snapchat, right? When it came to social media marketing, when it came to using social communities, the answer is I was all in. And we found ways to make use out of all that. If we fast forward a little bit, right? Um, we also had Google, all of its algorithms, organic marketing, content marketing, earned media. That whole space was all there. Um, Advertising as a whole, right? All these different advertising opportunities. It's not just Google and Microsoft, but then we had native advertising, we had sponsored advertising, we had advertising on all these different publication websites. The list goes on and on. We had newsletters, right? We had email marketing, these types of things. That was on board. We came up with life cycle communications. That's a whole nother space. Um, Basically, the list goes on and on. But if we take a look at what happened in 2007 with the iPhone coming to market and all these and social media becoming popular and so on and so forth, and we fast forward all the way to today, if you look at everything I just mentioned between now and November 2022, before AI hit the consumer market, during that entire time, there wasn't a huge shift of anything significant. In other words, the iPhone was significant, social media was significant, but there wasn't anything else really that's going to impact society and business the way that AI has since it came to market November 2022.
And let's get into the productivity AI. Like, what is your number one tool
So,
since
yeah.
2022? Like
Mhm.
two for
Yeah, I mean, I think it took a little bit of time to figure out how to use AI. It took a little bit of time to figure out where does it benefit us. And so the few areas that it benefits. Number one, using AI and I am going to say what we have in 2025. You have the option of using AI agents that, especially for a business, help to create a workflow. In other words, whatever it is that you're doing in your process, you're able to use AI agents to develop a workflow. I think that's very important. It develops consistency, reduces redundancy, and makes everything more effective. The next piece on AI is its ability to benefit the marketing process. In other words, the content development, the ideas, the text copy, the pitch um, um, uh, commentary, right? All these different things. That's the second major area where AI helps. Developing all the content, the direction, the strategy, all of that is helpful. The third thing I'm going to mention, and I'm sure that this, I'm just keeping it to three three items. The third thing I'm going to mention, I think that's beneficial to businesses, is this idea of using AI so that it can generate leads or sales. And I think this is really the crux of it all for a lot of businesses today. How do I use AI to generate more leads or businesses? And there's an entire process involved in that. Um, so let's look at it this way. A visitor comes to your website, right? Every website for the last whatever 20 some odd years has been involved in saying, I need to get the website visitor to click this button or to click this link, right? Those are our options. And what I call that in today's world is passive call to actions. Why do I call them passive? Because it requires the visitor to go there and click on it. Now, let's fast forward to AI. With artificial intelligence, we have the ability of creating what's called a journey funnel for every website visitor individually. In other words, we can track how long they sit on the website, what pages they went to, how much time they spent on specific pages. We can track whether or not they came back. And when they did, what's the time difference between that? We can track when they came back, where did they go? And in doing so, develop this journey funnel that basically says at the top of the journey funnel, the AI is saying for this particular visitor, it says, hey, at the beginning of the funnel, it's a little bit more passive and say, hey, you might want to look at this. But it's actively putting something in front of that visitor on the screen. Further down the funnel, the AI gets more aggressive. And it's basically saying you're already in the decision phase. How about you contact us? And I'm giving it a short version of it, right? But this is how AI helps to facilitate lead generation and to help a business grow without spending advertising dollars. That's the beauty of it. How do I use AI inside my website, take the existing traffic, and essentially generate more leads out of it without having to drive more traffic to the website? That's the beauty of the AI world nowadays.
And the one thing I have that is obviously you have like you set up a chat bot or
You
that's
don't need a
connected to
chat.
the
Yeah,
funnel.
well, I don't know that this is not a chatbot. A chatbot says I get to the website and the person wants to interact with me and asks questions, and the AI responds. Okay. I'm suggesting something separate from that. In other words, there's another way to use AI outside of chatbots. In other words, the AI is tracking the visitor's behavior on the website, and based on that behavior, throws something up in front of them that says, "Contact us, listen to this video, download this PDF, fill out this form, learn more about us," whatever that might. All these different methods that are available to us. So those are the two scenarios that we have, right? One, like as you were saying, the chatbot scenario where it's interactive and there's a question and there's an answer. In the other case, it's nothing more than pushing the call to action in front of that visitor. So those are the two differences that we're dealing with.
So based on and it's unique to each visitor viewer that comes when they click on something. It's based on the tracking. Am I getting that right?
I agree. It's tracking the visitor.
So there's tracking, and then there's the two like tracking and
I mean,
the
it's
word just
basic.
left my mind.
Yeah, it's basically tracking the visitor, but it's not tracking the visitor based on caching any activity, because
Hmm.
as you know, that all went away with a variety of laws and so on and so forth. We're not tracking at that level. We're tracking the visitor at the IP level, but only if they come back, and they only if they come back at that same IP address.
Okay, so at the IP level,
Yep.
so like the two way we said them a minute ago, and then it just left my mind.
Yeah.
The interactivity or tracking
Right.
IP.
Yeah, you're talking about tracking on IP address,
Yeah,
right? Versus tracking on cache, and the cache or the browser
yeah.
cookies.
The
Those are
cache
all
we
gone, right?
but
We're
now
now
now we
moving.
see now we see like on each website like you're acknowledging
Yep.
the terms and everything on each website now does this when after that time when privacy concerns
Everything that
what
goes
have
along
you.
with it. I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
no question about it. And so, but here's where the difficulty comes into play. And um, I've talked about this in other podcasts as well. The issue that we deal with is going back to my comment about crossing the chasm, right? That book is about the early adopters, the general population, and the bell curve, and the late adopters. And what the book doesn't discuss is the difference in time between early adopters and late adopters. In other words, that time could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year, right? All kinds of options there. As it relates to businesses, the faster that you implement a technology and a change, the more competitive you're going to be. That's my short version of what I'm going to explain here. The longer version are what I call my 4 A's of change. And what I mean by that is a business has to anticipate change. Now, sounds simple. It's not that simple. Anticipate change also means that you're creating a side investment account, a savings account, from which you can draw to reinvest into your company for these changes. So the anticipating change means about building a investment fund or a reinvestment fund into your company. The second item, which is the hardest one for a lot of businesses, is accepting change. Now, what we run into with this is the fact that businesses tend to put emotion over logic. Emotion gets in the way, saying, I'm going to fret, fuss, and fume because I don't like these changes, and I'm going to play around in the mud because it makes me feel good. Well, I'm glad that that's happening, but that doesn't mean that you're impacting your business in a positive way. As a matter of fact, you're impacting your business in a negative way by not accepting the changes early because your competition has already accepted it and they're moving forward. So if you want to be competitive, move the emotion out of the way, use logic, accept the change, and move forward. So assuming we can get past that step, so we've gone through anticipating change, we've gone through accepting change. The next two are actually a little bit easier. One of them is adapting to changes. In other words, what do I need to do within my company to make this work? And the last one is adopting the changes. In other words, how do I implement these changes? I think all of these things have a huge impact on how businesses interact and work with the technology and the technological changes that happen. And they're, I mean, I guess you could say it's being imposed on us, right? Which is okay. I mean, technology changes have been imposed on us ever since IBM came out with the PC. Um, it just feels different nowadays, right? Back in those days, it was the IBM PC. You bought it a year later, they came out with a faster processor, more disk space, more RAM, etc. And you kind of moved forward slowly. Well, we're way past all that, and we're no longer moving slowly. We're moving quickly. And it is imperative to be competitive, to push forward and keep moving forward. Um, I don't honestly see any of this changing in our lifetime. At least not in this lifetime.
And I can even like take since the dawn of time. Like we hear technology and we think electronics, computers,
Yep.
those the digital bells and whistles and whatever. But like since the dawn of time, the tools of prehistory or and going back way. many years ago, and these were also technology tools, new technologies. But so it's been around forever. Where
So let's let the
yeah,
viewership walk away as we get closer and closer to the end of
yeah.
the show. So it's something that they can actually use and to work with, right? And so one of the exercises that I like to suggest is go to ChatGPT, or if you want to go to Claude, go to Copilot, go to Perplexity, whatever you want to use. It doesn't make a difference. And again, my perspective is this: you're a business, you're trying to get noticed in the digital world, and based on that, go to your favorite AI tool and ask it to recommend businesses that provide your service or your products and see what pops up. Now, 9 times out of 10, your company is not going to pop up. So, your second question to your favorite AI tool is, why did you not recommend my company?
Hmm.
You're going to get a list. It's going to be yay long. Because
Right.
if you didn't get recommended in the first round, that means you have a to-do list, and the AI world is telling you this is what you need to do. That list is going to include your website, believe it or not, your SEO within your website. So it's not too different from Google.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, um, it's going to ask about notable references about you, your company, your services, your products out on the internet. So, what's notable? Well, Wikipedia is notable. New York Times is notable, right? Yahoo Finance is notable. I don't know, HubSpot's notable. My point is, you need to get yourself, one of the to do items is going to be you need to get yourself into a notable resource. That's one thing. The, Amongst that list, because there's a lot, I'm kind of cherry picking some items that I think the viewership is going to really be able to use or do something with. The next thing it's going to tell you is that you need to have schema code within your website. Schema is a platform that Yahoo, Microsoft, and Google came up with right around 2007. It is specifically designed to define what are the data points within a web page, not your website, just one single page. Here's a title, here's a phone number, here's a zip code, here's an address, here's the body text, here's the video. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference. What you're doing within the HTML code is defining what is in that page. And your favorite AI tool is going to say, I need to have you put the schema code into your website. Now, here's the good news: ask your favorite AI tool to give you the schema code that you can just copy and paste directly into that page. Now, and you might notice I'm talking about pages. I'm not talking about your entire website. There's no version
Mm-hmm.
of that. You have to go page by page by page and put the appropriate code within that page. So what we're suggesting is that, as I said, you're going to have this to-do list. This is going to be one of the items on that to-do list. There's no question in my mind. Most websites don't have this code in them. Take the code, put it in the page, hit update, move on to the next page. But that's how simple you could at least start to get your website noticed by the AI agents. They need, when I say the agents, I apologize, by the AI tools and platforms that are on the market. That's the way to do this. It's not the only thing to do, but in terms of something that's on the short list, to something that you can knock out quickly, this would be one of them.
So I wanted to give you a chance to finish if there's more to that before so we don't. I want to like
No,
get
I
to the
don't
bottom
want to
of
drag it out, but
it. Okay.
I think that's plenty. Yeah.
So that was that's good. When you're talking about getting your business onto the resource, I have a question for one final question on this
Sure.
and everything, and then a couple wrap ups. But I wanted to ask like what New York Times, Wikipedia, all these notable resources. What notable resource did you find you got into, or did did you go about the schema route yourself for
Um,
SmartFinds?
my suggestion, well, first of all, yes, we for our own agency, yes, we've been doing a lot of schema coding. But I will also tell you that the schema code for the AI platforms is a little bit different than the schema code for the search engines. There's a small tweak, it's not much, but you just get the AI platforms to provide you what it is that they want. Whatever they want automatically feeds the needs of Google and the other search engines. That's the good news. Um, in terms of um, what are some ways to get notable resources? Number one is I'm going to suggest the simplest one is to use press release marketing, but don't use the no cost and low cost syndication services. Those are entirely different from the professional, for lack of better words, media news networks. And yes, there's a huge price difference, right? You're dealing with, and I'm just throwing out a ballpark here. You're dealing with anywhere from 500 to 1,000 to $1,500 to get your press release into these notable resources. But believe me, it's worth it, and it's less costly. Number one, than your average advertising, and number two, it is long lasting. You can't get that residual value from advertising. So if you had to pay the 1,500, just pay the $1,500. Um, the point being is that in order to be in the notable resources, this is, I don't want to call it new necessarily, but the professional news networks need to validate who you are as a business. The cheap syndication services, they don't do that. And they're just wildly distributing your content, but that doesn't mean that notable resources are going to pick it up. So if you go with the paid route, you're going to turn around and get verified first. Then your press release goes out. And roughly speaking, I'm just ballparking here, about 10 days later ish, give or take, there's going to be 1,000 websites that are notable, that are like the ABCs, the CBSs, the NBCs, the Foxes, the CNNs, your financial networks, etc., who are picking up your press release with all the links and the attachments, the images, the PDFs, the videos, and they're linking back to your website. That's the least problematic way of getting notable resources. In other words, high ranking domain authority websites to carry information about you, your company, your products, and your services to be able to consider notable resources. Is it 100% perfect? The answer is no. But you need to find a starting point because you're not going to get into Wikipedia overnight. That's not happening either. So find a starting point and build on it. And the simplest way to start, number one, go to your favorite AI platform, ask it for the JSON code, or also known as the schema code, for every page of your website, because every page is different. Number two, use press release marketing. Both of these will help point you in the right direction.
And it just yesterday, like I was been more on like the video side and everything, and not like the back end web. And I just yesterday I came across schema code, 'cause, like, and I just find it
Mhm.
interesting that we're here talking about schema codes now, and I'm just learning what that was just last night when I was sit and actually I created something based on like a TV show or something for a web, put, putting creating a schema code for like a fictional TV show company and whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And I was just doing that just last night. So like, interesting that that you
Yep.
brought up the schema code. So thank you for that. That brought tremendous value on what we can actually do, what I can, and what we can all start out like go to like see, because like that's the goal, right? To have AI mention you in someone's search when they're searching for something.
It's about getting exposure, right? And you have to use all the different
Visibility.
tools that are available to you. And so, yes, visibility, exposure, credibility, right? You're talking about your brand, and you want to have a credible brand. You want to have base all of this on earned media, which is very important in terms of generating that trust. These are all parts of the puzzle, and when it comes to your overall marketing, your omni-channel or multi-channel marketing. It's all very important at the end of the day, and you need to stay on top of it. If you as a business can't stay on top of it, then I suggest hiring a marketing agency.
So as we're getting close to time here, that said about 45 minutes and everything. Anything before we get into wrap up? I want to ask about like where can connect with you, and or we'll ask
Sure.
what about like what is
I mean,
website stuff, like you're a
yeah,
little bit
sure.
about his business, but I want to like
Absolutely.
where was
So
I?
one of my yeah, so one of my
Go
suggestions
ahead.
is number one, if you want to reach me, the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. Um, I'm the only Melih Oztalay in LinkedIn, so it's easy to find me. Number two is tag me on your posts and your activities on LinkedIn, because I have 22,000 and more close friends, and my network keeps growing. Um, Basically, anytime I react, anytime I comment, anytime I reply to your post, you have the ability of expanding your reach into my network. Um, it's better if we're connected, but I don't have to be connected to you. You can tag me under any circumstance. Um, when I get tagged, I get an email in my regular inbox. It becomes a to do for me. I will react. I'll put a solid comment in there. I'll put hashtags in there. Basically, I'll do whatever I can to help you. And in doing so, we're both getting exposure from this process. So that would be my suggestion in terms of reaching out and connecting with me. Um, Outside of that, you can visit our website, smartfindsmarketing.com. You'll get a list of all the various solutions and services that we offer as a marketing agency. And of course, a lot of that, believe it or not, includes our conversion rate optimization program, our press release marketing program, amongst other things. And happy to talk to anybody who's interested.
And that's spell out direct. I know you listed on the on your profile and everything. Smart finds
Marketing,
with an S. I'm assuming
correct? Yep.
smart finds
It's
because I'm thinking
smart and
smart
then
finds with a Z or something too, but with
no,
an
no,
S.
smart finds with an S. So
Yeah.
smart, and then F is in Frank, I, N is in Nancy, D is in dog, S is in Sam,
Okay.
marketing.com.
But thank you. I want to just get a quick sum up. Give me of what we everything we talked about today. Give me the three lessons from mistake to, I don't know if you want to call it a breakthrough, but give me three lessons that you learned from that mistake to the breakthrough. Just
I mean, I think, if
quickly.
we talk about what are our takeaways?
Takeaways.
And the takeaways from today's session in terms of what have I learned in 4 decades in business, it's that technology will always change, and we have to accept it. Um, we have to make sure that we keep the human factor in there somewhere along the line. But we have to also be aware of the fact that it's not about controlling the changes or the technology, it's about managing them. And I think there's two distinctly different terminologies here. And so, whether you're a creator, you're an entrepreneur, or a brand, the idea is stay curious, stay adaptable, and more importantly, just keep it real. And what I mean by that is keep it human. And I think that that's how we're going to build connections that last. We're going to build businesses that move forward. And it's really about, keeping up on the tech changes that happen very quickly upon us.
And I like to bring in the real moment, as this is keeping real podcast.
Hmm.
What is one way that your business, your company is keeping it real, and you're diving deep into this AI, fast growing technology? What is one way that you're keeping it real?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one way we're keeping it real is to make sure that we have the human factor involved in it at all times, right? In other words, AI is a tool. AI isn't the end all be all. We're using it to manage our mundane routine tasks. We're using AI to be more efficient. We are using AI to be more effective, but none of that negates the fact that human beings are making decisions on whatever it is that AI is suggesting, right? And I think that, if I think about this, the one thing that came to my mind is the movie I, Robot, right? I mean, there's a perfect scenario where there's a lot of AI involved in the movie, but
Mhm.
ultimately human beings are in control.
Yeah, like someone who I'm connected with, like I do like this Toastmasters, and he, as the way he states it, you don't necessarily have to worry about what the technology is doing. It's usually what the people, what we do with the technology, and who's controlling the technology is how he states it. So
Yep,
it's what are the people? What are we doing with the technology?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up to the human beings to make that decision. It's not up to the AI. And so the idea that, you have all these fear mongers out there who seem to think that AI is taking over mankind, I beg to differ.
So, is there, before I ask my final question, is there anything that we left out that you feel that quickly needs to be inserted?
Boy,
Anything?
you and I could sit here and talk for a couple more hours, and I actually, but because this doesn't end. I don't know that I've left anything pertinent out for today's session. I think this was helpful. I want to thank you, Tommy, for having me on your show. You've been a great host, and looking forward to maybe checking back in with you at a later date.
Yeah, thank you for guiding me in the direction towards value. Because cause as I'm seeking for the right questions here. But
That's
my
right. Don't worry
final
about it.
question is a bit human, and I always like to ask, like, what is your definition of innovation?
What is the definition of innovation? Um, well, innovation is based on mankind's creativity, right? It's based on mankind's imagination, but it's the development, it's the implementation of a new product, right? The implementation of a new service. Um, in some cases, it's the implementation of a new process. Whatever it is, it's the implementation of something that delivers um, meaningful improvements, or something that solves a problem in a better way. So that's my definition.
technology solving problems in better and better ways,
Yep, you got
faster
it.
and faster. Thanks again, Millie, and hope to have you back on to see where we're going on in the future. This is fun, and close it out. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Tommy.
All right.
Mysteries. No mysteries. No mysteries.